Welcome to the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast, where art and wellness collide. If you watched our first episode with Nikken, you will have noticed that I couldn't just simply stop falling in love with him. So, so here we are. We're getting ready for our wedding in a couple months. But we are also celebrating today the release of the new Isiliel EP, Todeshochzeit. So, you wrote it.
That's right.
Produced it. You've been working on this EP for a long time.
Over a year.
Over a year. And it's finally come to fruition and everybody's listening to it. The reviews have been crazy good, that is. So do you want to tell us a little bit about where the ideas came from, how it got started?
So that will require a fair amount of backtracking on my part. I know that the first ideas for Todeshochzeit started a little bit before the first Isiliel and the Lillen concert in Kongsvinger. Me and Ricky were sharing some minor ideas about doing some goth-related stuff. And when we met up in Kongsvinger, talking a little bit before the show, and a little bit afterwards, we just shared some thoughts about what would be really cool to do for such a project. And I was reading some old-school vampire novels at the time, too, to get into the vibe, as it were. And we imagined a lot of things. And that was really the first problem and the first reason why it would take so incredibly long to actually make the whole thing, because narrowing down exactly how to do an Isiliel goth EP was quite difficult. Isiliel is already kind of an established style.
Yeah.
Right? Even though they've been working with some other songwriters, I've primarily done the songwriting for Isiliel. And there are some unspoken rules for what Isiliel can and cannot do. And the very nice thing is that the first album is there's so many ideas in the first album and goes in so many directions that it means that we have a very large playbook, as it were, right? I'm very glad we did so many crazy things with the first album, because that means that almost whatever we do, there's an established practice for it, right? It doesn't sound like it's coming out of left field. And playing around with the ideas for what could work as a goth EP took a very long amount of time. So most of the material ended up on the cutting floor. But the primary thing that Ricky really wanted us to do was to do some sort of collaboration with the necromantic team, as it were. He really enjoyed the ideas behind and the actual song Ménage à Trois. And getting into necromantic, I didn't see a clear-cut path for me, because the song itself is such a different style from anything I've worked with. It was very difficult to find a way to shoehorn that into an Isiliel thing. And while all of that was going on, we were writing the second Isiliel album too. All right, and Ricky initially hoped that we would get done with the EP before Moonbow Rebellion.
Oh.
Right.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah, and after that, we were already getting started on the third Moonbow, right, or the third full-length Isiliel album. And so all these things have been competing for attention. But so one of the cool things, though, is that when you work with so much material at once, you're kind of allowed to go and work with the things that you're the most inspired to work with. And it happened one day, I think in November or December last year. I was on the bus and I listened to some The Cure, and it just suddenly struck me what kind of logic allowed us to do necromantic in a way that would really suit Isiliel. Because baked into the whole Isiliel thing is already a lot of gothic logic, because that's kind of par for the course in terms of my own songwriting already. There's a lot of implicitly gothic motives already in the music. Isiliel already has such a gothic foundation that it made sense to me how we could do something more of a major scale type of sound in a way that would work. So you get this disturbing contrast that just really works. All through a revelation given by listening to The Cure.
We should call up Robert Smith and tell him.
that we're eternally grateful.
He'd be delighted, actually.
Yeah.
Because the EP, it sounds, I think I really like how many different goth vibes come into it, right? Because there's bits of it that sound really traditional, but it's kind of been dubbed as kawaii goth since the release, right? Which is also exciting because I think it fits that kind of like glitter goth, that pastel goth, whimsical goth. I think it fits all of them. We all need a little more goth in our life, I think.
You know, many people have ideas about what is and isn't goth, right? There's a reason I never really identified as that or any of the other surrounding subcultures. For me, everything that, is typically dubbed goth, I've always seen as very positive things. Even though the motifs are dark, it's a very celebratory genre, right? It's about beauty first and foremost.
Yes.
Right?
And if you listen to the first episode, we know that you are all about beauty.
Oh, yes, I absolutely am. So, kawaii goth, and that entire thing. So, already before the goth EP had really started, me and Ricky were discussing a lot about what kind of vibe we really want for Isiliel, and what we want Isiliel to be, and what kind of nerves you want to hit with music. See, it never made sense to me to make music in order to meet some extrinsic end. There are easier ways to make money and such things, right? I always get into music because I want to make the music that doesn't exist that I want to hear, right? I was frustrated as a kid that I couldn't find the music I wanted to hear. That's how I got into songwriting. And the thing that me and Ricky both share as a sentiment is that for the J-metal scene and J-rock scene, for which we both have tons of respect and to which we owe basically the entirety of the scene, right? We always figure that when it comes to what is the sound of anime, like the dark anime, like Evangelion, of which we're both fans, and others, we figure that there are so many different sounds those could actually have, but it kind of settled on a very specific kind of J-pop type of sound. We always kind of wondered if anime had an alternative trajectory. I think me more than all, but Ricky seemed to mostly agree with this. We really kind of want to explore what that will be. A dark kind of sound that is celebratory of itself, if you will. A tragic kind of style and mode. Tragedy is another misunderstood concept in that regard, right? Something heroic and beautiful, right? And we never really tried first and foremost to make the goth EP super duper kawaii.
Right.
But we kind of work with the elements we have and we see possibilities as they arise. One of the features of Isiliel is obviously Himani's voice. It turns out that it's not very difficult to have her do a kawaii voice, right? And that's a byproduct of we're trying to work with the voice to hit a certain nerve in the music when we're doing the sessions. So, I can get back to that one later, but basically the problems we faced during recording. But basically, when we do the recording and we see how the stars align with what we're trying to hit, and we obviously know through goosebumps whether it's working or not, right?
Yes.
This is working, good. Do that voice. Yes, when that voice and this music clashes, that's perfect. And what we were really digging for was basically more vocal clarity, because the songs really needed to sound naked, very frequently at least, right? And that turned her voice quite kawaii, because that's how she interprets that. And it's like, this is really working. Let's keep doing that. Right? So before kawaii goth, I guess it's more anime goth.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. And I think, everybody has been saying from what I'm seeing, they have never heard her vocals sound so clear, so bright, so just like, it's almost otherworldly, and I am obsessed with it. You know, we saw one review the other day that said that they would rate it only a 9 out of 10 because, gosh darn it, they just wanted it to be longer. And you know what? Well, we said, yep, it's an EP. It's not supposed to be full length. But what a testament to the vocals and also to the songwriting in knowing that you're getting down marked because they want more.
Yeah, I would much rather have that kind of rating than a 10 out of 10. Much rather. And as a matter of fact, I try not to have material that overstays its welcome, even though it seems in a capitalist logic, at least, to make more sense than more is more. I think that when you have music that overstays its welcome, it inevitably makes the music more boring in the long run, because a lot of the music survives in what isn't explored. And there are songs I leave out of the material frequently because it kind of makes the other songs overstay their welcome. And it's more about propping the highest experience than it is about having a multitude of experience.
Yeah.
Right? So, Isiliel albums aren't super duper long.
No.
It happens that we have very long songs. The running time is usually the same as for any other album. We don't have super duper many tracks.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, I think. I think, you know what, you see average 13 to 15 tracks, but that is roughly what solo albums are.
Yeah.
13-ish, right? And so I think it's you're just right on track.
No, it is the case that they've advocated that we take away material because it doesn't necessarily add to the album.
Yes, and sometimes that is the hard thing, is when you have to cut songs to elevate the other things that you're working on. And what I really notice about these tracks on the EP is that they're very, I mean, yes, we can go back and say it's kawaii, but it's sparkly. There's something that is so bubbly about them. But then you also feel like there's this happy, like, demon princess dragging you to hell in a loving way. And especially, and I forget, because I always mix up the titles of the track, but the one with the laughter.
That would be Blutra.
Yes. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I was on the phone with Ricky less than a month ago for the recording session for that song. And it was basically a case of going in and out of the studio, because it was one of those things where it's like, this sounds good, but I can tell that there's something we aren't hitting that we could be hitting. So I requested that they try more, and they had to do a session without me present. And for the final session for that song, I was present, and the takes were just amazing. Everything was on point. Himari had been thinking deeply about what she wanted to do with the song, and we've been talking a little bit about what we wanted to do. And she just hit it right at the park. Right? I was an absolute home run. And since we had time to spare, because the studio they have in Japan, I had a schedule, as it were. It's scheduled in, I think, 2 or 3 hours. Very old school like that. And with time to spare, I just immediately realized that I want to have laughter in this section of the song, and also the final section of the song. So we just coached Himari into laughing, right? And we tried various laughters, and we tried to do the whole mental image thing that we do a lot of, which is like, it's funny because in the context, the laughter sounds pretty dark. And I think the reason it does so is because the mental images we used to were actually quite genuine. It's like, really, you're having the best day of your life, right? And that kind of stuff. Or that clashes with the music, which is like a downwards going, very doomy, dun, 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 right?
Yes.
It sounds off in a way that's relatable. And what we did for the ending of the song, we took parts of that laughter and reversed it, because I just wanted to see what happened. But I imagined that it would sound really disturbed and wrong, because the throat is one of those really relatable instruments. You can kind of feel how it is when a vocalist sings when you hear it. Yeah. You can kind of mirror how that feels in your throat, right? You can hear the stress, you can feel those things. So knowing that, reversing laughter with a voice you've already empathized, with to a high degree, it just feels like choking. Weirdly enough, at least to me, right?
Yes.
And it sounds so wrong with that droplet effect we have going in there too, right? It's just all those images that really work. And there are some things I want to talk about that I can't regarding some other details regarding the song and what it will be used for.
Oh, exciting. You've done so much coaching with her on her voice. And I just think it's so nice how she feels so comfortable listening to your advice, getting your input, and helping her become a better vocalist and better musician. And like, what does that mean for you? And how do you feel, being in that role?
Well, it's a terrifying responsibility, as it always is, but you get used to that kind of stuff, right? The first time I inadvertently end up in a vocal coaching type of scenario, not exactly the same, but I was working with a high-profile black metal artist in Bergen, and I kind of just stumbled into my lap. I was working with, I basically got picked up by my teachers who were in Enslaved, black metal band Enslaved. They had a studio called Earshot and Conclave, and I worked there for a while with some relatively high-profile people. Right? It was a great opportunity. But that meant that sometimes I would sit there alone and be the only adult in the room, as it were, and realize, well, how do you do this thing?
Yeah.
And so I ended up giving quite a bit of vocal coaching to someone in regards to growling. As it turns out, I know how to growl quite well and know how to do a lot of other things with your voice, right? So I can kind of sense through that empathy, that vocal empathy, right, what someone is doing with their voice and whether it's giving the effect that it could be having, right? And a lot of it is simply just getting into the psychology of, are you relaxed enough? Right? That's one of the most important things. The first and most important thing is to just have fun and be relaxed and enjoy yourself, because joy is the best instinct I think we have for maneuvering us towards goals. Right? It's pure goal-directed behavior, if you will. Mm-hmm. Right? And getting people into that headspace, first and most important thing, and then second, the technicalities. You can just Google some things usually. And knowing a few things about the voice, of the various tangents you can push on, will give you effects. And just knowing, this I learned from Tanya, who is also a vocalist, very skilled, I've worked a lot with her, great person. Basically, to hit high notes and to sing with clarity and such things, sometimes just screaming like a baby really helps, because we all know how to do that. We've all been babies, right? And babies can scream for hours and end without ruining their voice necessarily. Yeah. So it's like, right? Yeah. And if you do that, you can do a power metal scream if you really want to. And I remember when Himari was faced with a challenge she thought she couldn't do, just like, okay, do it like this. And the power of simply going at something you don't necessarily think you can do, that the gods haven't necessarily allowed you to do, and just feel yourself do that immediately gives you the knowledge that, okay, we can do this. This is possible. And that removes the most important mental obstacle, which is that this is impossible. Mm. You have to get it out of the way as soon as possible, because now you can actually spar with the problem, right? Now you're in the challenge. Now you're in the room.
Yeah.
I think that in her case, it works. And therefore it's to some extent worthy of trust. And for me, it's terrifying because, well, you don't want to give the advice that ends up being the one that messes up her voice, right? Mm-hmm. So you take the responsibility to actually read up on things and make sure you aren't talking out your ass.
That's true. But I think it must be empowering for her to overcome all these obstacles. Again, I always talk about putting these barriers in our own way of getting the results that we want, reaching our goals and things like that. You've been there to help her remove all of those barriers.
Not all of them, but yeah, I've contributed, right?
It seems to me like at least a number of them.
There have been many people along her journeys that have helped her in various ways. She obviously wasn't nobody when we started working together, right? She is the type of person that is determined to, even if she doesn't think she can win, it seems to me, she is going to give her best shot, right? She has an attitude, and that is a dream come true in a studio environment. Because what I need isn't necessarily optimism. That isn't necessarily the thing. It's more the willingness to see it through to the end. Because as long as people are willing to give things a shot, willing to try things, willing to, summon their best, as it were, right? Then you can do some amazing things. I deal with the know-how for the most part, but I still need the musicians to do what they know how to do best.
Yeah.
So she's a great musician to work with already, right? There are lots of good ingredients there for the stew.
So there's lots of things coming up for you and for Isiliel over the summer and into the future. What kind of things can we look forward to?
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Oh, okay.
So I'm currently in the process of doing a number of those things to look forward to. And that's a cool position to be in. I get to be sick and tired of it before people have already begun listening to it. Right?
Well, yeah.
But I can say, obviously, there is the tour, and there are some really, really, really special shows coming up. So there will first and foremost be on the 23rd, I believe it was, the HMV show in London. And the day after, you and I are going to get married.
Yay.
At the Carton of Horses. And he might will debut as priestess, as it were, to have us joined in the light of the moon, as it were.
Yes.
And on that show, that is one people should absolutely attend if they can. I will be very happy to see as many of you as possible. There will be a special CD there with an exclusive track that will not be sold anywhere else, and that will only be sold physically to commemorate that particular event. Of course, there'll be the music used for the actual event, which is official Isiliel music. And 2 days after that, July 26th, there will be the Underworld show, which will be the biggest Isiliel show to date.
Yes.
Yikes. Lovely to see all the people who already bought tickets for that as well. It's epic.
And that one's, of course, again, with the whole Lillen, the Norwegian Lillen. And it's going to be a massive show.
Yes.
Definitely get those tickets early. Moonbow Union tickets are available at heavymetalhippiemusic.com. And tickets for the Underworld in Camden are available at Dice or via the Underworld Camden's website. I'm going to also link that in the show notes below. So check it out. Come to these shows, grab exclusive CDs, see Himari, Isiliel, and the Lillen.
Yes.
And we know that the Lillen bring the heat. So we definitely would love to see you all at these shows. In addition to that, you're working on the third album. There's little pieces slowly coming together for it. And you've got lots of stuff going on with Isiliel, but also offering your services as a producer, offering your services as a songwriter and a teacher. And you can go find more about Nikken at www.nickenproductions.com. And you're on Instagram now.
Yes.
You can find him at Nikken_28 on Instagram. I've been so excited that we get to share all of this news around the EP and everything upcoming. And it's nice that we get to do a recording in person. I think that all of you out there will be able to look forward to future episodes discussing topics such as songwriting and creativity, music production, finding your voice, and many, 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 many more topics in the future. So keep your eyes peeled for them. Thank you so much for being here today. And we will see you in a second, I suppose.
See you in a sec.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast. For more ways to connect, go to www.healthymetalhippie.com.